tuning into the High Performance Path podcast, and I'm your host, Alex. If you want to increase your productivity, enhance your mental performance, hack your sleep, and build a bulletproof body, then you're in the right place. Get ready as we dive into interviews with performance coaches, business owners, and health professionals to find out their daily routines, habits, and movement practices. All right, let's go. All right, listeners, welcome back to another episode. Today you're in for a treat. So today's episode, the topic is going to be nootropics. If you don't know what nootropics are, we'll get into that in a little bit, but they come under biohacking. So today's guest, I've got Phil. Phil is one of the co-founders of Neuratech, which is a company that sells nootropics. So welcome to the show, Phil.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, mate.
So before we get into your background or a little bit about you, I actually wanted to start by asking you what your morning routine looked like this morning, or what your current morning routine is. So let's start with that.
Yeah, so my morning routine pretty much stays the same and has been the same for quite a while. So generally I like to wake up at about 6 a.m. and I'll exercise probably for about half an hour to an hour. So recently, because of isolation and everything, that's just been going for a run around the block and like doing some pull-ups and push-ups at the local park. But now that we're going back into gym, I'll be going back into like our little functional fitness gym and doing sessions there. So I do a session there at 6 a.m. every morning, get home, shower, and then I don't eat breakfast. So I haven't had breakfast in quite a while. My first meal is lunch. And I'll have my greens and enhance. And that's pretty much my morning routine. And then
Green
on the way to work.
Or greens
Yeah,
as in food.
A green supplement, yeah.
Yep.
So that's pretty much my staple. I want to get that in every day. Just makes my gut feel great and helps me get in the micronutrients because I know I'm probably lacking in other certain areas. So I just want to make sure I'm good with that. And then also on the way to work, because I catch the train to work, I like to get in about 30 minutes just reading on the train.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, that's reading generally.
Do you have coffee or anything?
Sorry. I have coffee when I get to work, yeah.
Cool.
So I'll have maybe 1 to 2 coffees a day at the moment. But yeah, I just save that for when I get to work.
Awesome. All right. Let's get into a little bit about what you do. So can you explain to the listeners how you got into biohacking and then a little bit about, I guess, how you started Neuratech and what it is?
Yeah, man. So obviously I'm one half of Neuratech. We actually started the company quite a while back in mid 2017. And that started, we started the company, Daniel and myself, as we were graduating uni actually. And the way we got interested in the space is just through the last few years of uni, we were very into sort of self-experimentation. And during exam period and whatnot, we would be experimenting with, the typical like smart drugs. So like your modafinils and your Ritalins, just as a way to sort of keep alert and focused during the day whilst we were studying 8-10 hours a day during exam period. And it was sort of like this almost underground thing back then. And that's definitely what piqued our interest because we were looking at it, we're going, hold on a minute, you can take these substances to like significantly improve or modulate your neurochemistry. And just like light bulbs went off and we're like, this is fascinating. So we began researching. We realized there was a whole field of like natural ingredients which can help support brain function as well. And we saw that most of the interesting stuff was going on in the US. And actually there weren't many companies in Australia at all building great products in this space. So, we got together, we're both very, very interested. And we said, why don't we start a startup or a company around this? And we did. And luckily enough, at the same time, there was this accelerator program going on at our university, the University of Queensland. And what that is, it was like a 3-month program with a bit of grant money. And they basically help you form the company and find your customers and build your product. And yeah, so on a whim, we applied. We did like 3 days of pitching to different judges and whatnot. And it was sort of just this intense battle of pitching, refining your pitch, pitching again. And then after the 3 days, they pretty much picked like the top teams to go in to the program. And yeah, we actually got in, which was awesome. So yeah, that was really interesting. We had to sort of balance that, and we were just graduating uni as well. So we were getting our full-time graduate positions, myself as an engineer, and Daniel is in OHS. So that was a bit of a struggle, but we managed to go through, and yeah, we've been building the company ever since. So back then in 2017, 2018, we actually took our first product to market called Clarity, which was actually a powdered nootropic. We sold that for about a year, both online and in stores and whatnot. And we weren't entirely happy with the product. Like, it was good and we got some good feedback, but just the growth wasn't there. We didn't really know what we were doing. We were very fresh in business. Like, we were just hopped into this industry, the supplement industry, basically without any idea what we were doing. And yeah, we learned a lot of lessons. We met a lot of good people along the way. But with that first product, we took it off the shelves. We went back to the drawing board, reformulated, did some more R&D, and we've come out with this new product Enhance and a whole suite of products and things we want to do in the nootropics space, which I think are really exciting. So yeah, we've only had Enhance on the market for about 2 months now. It's going quite well. We're spreading it quite well. We've definitely learned a lot of lessons, and we know what we're doing a bit better now. We've got some good mentors around us as well. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be in the space. The space is still pretty new and fresh in Australia. I think there's a few major companies coming on board with some nootropic products, or they're throwing in some nootropic ingredients in their other sports supplements or whatever. But I think we're really sort of separating ourselves and being a leader in nootropics specifically, because that's all we care about right now.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. It's business is it's a journey of failures and growth and learning, kind of like life, I guess, learning about yourself and learning about the body and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
can you explain to the listeners what a nootropic is? And I know you mentioned earlier smart drugs.
Yes.
I want to kind of get into those a little bit later, so you can kind of explain what the difference between those and nootropics are. But let's start with explaining what nootropics are.
Yeah. So the definition of nootropics can vary, but generally they are any substance or compound capable of improving some aspect of cognitive function, whether that's memory, creativity, or focus, without having any negative side effects, and whilst also being neuroprotective and non-toxic. So if you look at that definition, you would almost have to separate, nootropics from smart drugs and all these harsh pharmaceuticals, which we can go down later. That's generally my definition. So you can find a lot of good natural nootropics, such as Bacopa, Alpha-GPC, lion's mane mushroom, which can all sort of support your brain in the long term and also improve your cognitive performance whilst having very little to no side effects. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, cool. So I want to actually dive into some of those that you just mentioned. Some of the common nootropics and what their benefits are, like if they all have similar benefits or slightly different benefits.
Yeah, for sure. So a few of the more popular ones we'll go into, and we use a few of these in Enhance, of course. So probably one of the most popular ones out there is Bacopa Monnieri. So it's a herb which has been used for literally thousands of years in traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, and there's some really good research around it, and it seems to consistently improve or promote memory. So that's its main benefit, and it does that through a variety of mechanisms. So being a herb, it has many different mechanisms of action. So everything from being an antioxidant to improving blood flow to the brain, to acting as an adaptogen, actually help attenuating some of that stress response, to acting as an acetylcholine esterase inhibitor, so actually slightly elevating levels of acetylcholine in the brain, and it also seems to act on other neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, but a bit less so. So that's Bacopa. Great research on it, and definitely probably our main ingredient within Enhance. Another popular option would be your Alpha-GPC or your CDP choline. So what they are is they're actually precursors to acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter, which is responsible for a lot of memory formation, even muscle control. And yeah, you can actually find choline in a lot of food sources like eggs and meats and fish. but you can also supplement with it, and it's a direct precursor, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier and actually gets converted into acetylcholine. So yeah, alpha-GPC and CDB-choline are really good sources of it. You see choline bitartrate in a lot of products. So choline bitartrate doesn't actually seem to cross the blood-brain barrier very well at all. Some supplement companies use it. I think it's a bit dodgy. The research doesn't look great around it. Personally, I'm not a fan. So yeah, big on those choline donors, some would call them. And another very popular one, which has been growing, is sort of your medicinal mushrooms, like a lion's mane mushroom.
Yes, they're
So
becoming really popular and big.
yeah, so they've blown up over the past few months, few years actually. Yeah, lion's mane is interesting. So the primary mechanism of action which people are interested in with lion's mane is its ability to affect and promote nerve growth factor. So, or what they call NGF. That's basically just a protein which helps neurons. It supports neurons, helps them grow, repair, and survive, really. So there's a lot of good research with lion's mane, but it's mainly in sort of cell models and rodent models. So I'd definitely like to see more research in humans with lion's mane, but it seems very safe and it seems pretty good at doing what it does. So promoting NGF and also acting as sort of neuroprotective and supporting and protecting neurons in the long term. So they're probably the main ones which, if you're looking to support brain health in the long term and some initial nootropics to get you started, I would look into those few there for sure.
Now, with these nootropics, I want to ask you about like dosage, and are there any like negative side effects of having too much of this stuff? And is it safe to have these things like daily, like on a daily basis?
Yeah. So dosage is interesting. I think you want to take essentially the minimum effective dose for yourself individually. You probably want to start at a lower dose and sort of ramp up to the recommended or clinical dose. Just because, yes, they can have side effects, but they're generally not harsh in any way. But it comes down to the individual and your individual biochemistry and how you react to certain things. So, for example, with Bacopa Monnieri, it does seem to have an effect in some people where it makes you a bit lethargic or increases fatigue a bit. So that's why there's this different.
Is that
Yeah, what
if
was that? Sorry.
taken in high doses or like the normal dose?
Not necessarily high doses, just the normal dose over a long
Yeah.
period of time. It can have that effect, but there's different extracts which sort of try to mitigate that. So we use the Synapsa brand, which tries to mitigate that. Because some extracts seem to work more on serotonin. Maybe that's what's causing like that calming effect. But generally speaking, if you take some of these natural nootropics, which have been pretty well studied at the recommended dose, fairly consistently, you'll be okay. In fact, with Bacopa, lion's mane, and CDB-choline, the studies are done over a period of like 2-3 months, and the effects actually build up over a long period of time. But I would say, whilst you can take it consistently, I would say it's very important to cycle on and off every supplement you take, basically. I would never take anything every single day. So with like Enhance, or if you were to take like Bacopa by itself or lion's mane, I would recommend no more than 5 days a week. So 5 days on and then 2 days off, or some kind of, routine like that.
Yeah,
Just
cool.
because over time, your body will build up a tolerance. Over time, your body might downregulate some certain processes. So definitely cycle on and off every single supplement you take.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Going back to what you mentioned earlier, smart drugs. Can you explain what the
Yeah.
difference between they are, and the difference between those and nootropics?
Yeah. So smart drugs, such as modafinil, Ritalin, or dextroamphetamine, being drugs, they're formulated to treat or cure or prevent certain disease or illnesses. So
But they're
right off
not
the bat, by
natural.
definition, they're not natural. They're synthetic drugs that made to treat certain illnesses, for example, ADHD or narcolepsy. So right off the bat, they are different in that they're specifically targeting these very few mechanisms of action and causing very large changes in your brain's neurochemistry. So, for example, modafinil, it acts somewhat as a dopamine reuptake inhibitor in certain regions in the brain. So it actually increases concentrations of dopamine in certain regions of the brain, and that causes you to be super alert and focused for like a day straight. But at the same time, these smart drugs, because they're so potent, they typically have much harsher side effects and they're not very sustainable. So, for example, if you were to take modafinil for a few days at a time, after that, you would crash and you would probably feel terrible and you would struggle to get any good sleep just because
Yeah.
you've boosted your dopamine artificially by a significant amount, and then over time, your brain, your body's going to downregulate your dopamine production, and yeah, it's going to be much harsher for you. So yeah, these smart drugs, they are prescription. You're meant to get them prescribed for certain, like I said, whether it's ADHD or narcolepsy. But a lot of people take them off label and without the prescription to sort of get ahead. Many people in academia or many corporates and university students, they use it to sort of, really boost their focus. And, it works. It's a good tool to have in the toolkit, but you got to know what it's doing to your body. You got to know how to be safe about it, and realize the potential negative consequences that it may have.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think supplements as a whole, you should research and know what the benefits of every supplement are that you have and when you should take them. And like you said, you shouldn't be supplementing with something every single day if you're like unless it's necessary. So some examples I want to actually ask you about on like when to supplement, say for like vegans or shift workers, for example. When could be
Mm-hmm.
like what are some good supplements to use if you're where you live in the world, or your work schedule or your diet can be lacking in something. They're the times where you should supplement, not every single day if you don't need it. So I just want to kind of talk generally about supplements.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for supplements for like vegans or shift workers, for example?
Yeah. So that's definitely a great point. I think with supplementation, sort of your lowest hanging fruit is sort of, any deficiencies you might have from your diet if you're not taking in certain foods. So yeah, for vegans specifically, an interesting one would be, there's a few things I would definitely recommend. So if you're a vegan, for example, you're not taking in fish, so it might be wise to supplement with like an omega-3 DHA just to get that in, because that's really beneficial for brain function in the long term. Another one is, if you're a vegan, you might be missing out on some good sources of choline, like I said, so from eggs and meats and whatnot. So it might be wise then to supplement with like an alpha-GPC or CDP choline. Otherwise, generally you can tell like whether or not, if you're getting enough micronutrients from fruit and vegetables, you can supplement separately with micronutrients. Yeah, you just really, it's very personalized. So depending on what diet you have or what you're taking in every day, it might be wise to supplement with these things. Then you can also look at sort of, a lot of people in the Western world seem to be not deficient, but lacking maybe a bit in sort of your vitamin D or your magnesiums. You can look into that. And then after you've sort of covered those bases, then I would look at these other compounds and herbal extracts and nootropics, which you can use to really support your brain function in the long term, whether that's, as I said, Bacopa lion's mane, CDB choline. There's a bunch of choices you can make. Yeah, shift workers, as you said. Not sure if I have any specific recommendations, but there's a lot of stimulant-like compounds that I would look at that aren't caffeine.
To get you through the night shift if you're on night shift.
Yeah. So two interesting ones off the top of my head, I would say look into Theacrine and Dynamine. So they're actually compounds structurally similar to caffeine, except they have different peak concentration curves and longer half-lives. They last longer in the body, and they peak at different times to caffeine, except they cause no increases in heart rate or blood pressure like caffeine does.
Oh.
So they're very interesting compounds. And I'd also look at compounds such as L-Tyrosine, which is a precursor to dopamine. So it actually supports mood and motivation. And there's also good research showing that it acts as sort of a stress buffer. So while you're doing intense work, it sort of acts to buffer that stress as well.
Yeah, okay. What about like melatonin supplements or like blue light blockers, for example, that say, for example, you're on night shift and you finish at 7 or 8 in the morning and the sun
Yeah.
comes up at 6 or 7, and if you want to go to sleep, I would assume that like blue light blockers would be beneficial to wear before, like as the sun's coming up, so that that sunlight doesn't inhibit your when your body sees the sunlight, it it starts to wake up. It thinks it's time to wake up. Do you think there's anything around that?
Um, Absolutely. Yeah, I think blue blockers are great. Especially if you're trying to get into that sort of particular sleep rhythm. Melatonin can be pretty useful. It definitely works quite well. Um, I would just be wary to not use too high of a dose. So I think 300 micrograms is how much your body naturally produces at night to get to sleep.
Yeah, okay.
But there's supplements out there which have like 5 milligram or 10 milligram tablets. So you probably don't need that much. And I just watch out that it doesn't become like a crutch and that you just end up taking melatonin every single day anyway.
And then start to
So I'd
rely
try,
on it and then mess up
yeah,
with
and
your
then
natural production of it.
yeah. So I've fallen down that trap before where I've been like, oh, I need this to get a good night's sleep, and then it's just like it becomes your new baseline almost.
Yeah, okay. Going down that path, is there any other mistakes that you've kind of made and learnt from with, like, say that, for example, or other supplements?
Um,
Like taking too much of something or at the wrong times, or you realize you actually don't need something that you thought was
yeah,
beneficial.
I think not necessarily with nootropics, but definitely with like melatonin. That's one. Another one would be like pre-workouts and I guess stimulants in general. Just
Mm,
becoming extremely reliant on that and taking high doses of that every single day to go to the gym, and then just coming home at night and just being way too wired to and then it's really affecting your sleep that night, and you're going to struggle.
yeah, I think that's like even more important for people who train in the afternoons or at night. If you take pre-workout, and most of them have caffeine in them, a lot of caffeine in them, and that's caffeine is a nootropic in itself, isn't it? A lot of people don't realize that. But yeah, if you take
Yeah.
a pre-workout in the afternoon to train, that all that caffeine is still in your system even when you're trying to go to sleep. So you can ruin your sleep, and then you're trying to play catch up. You have a crap sleep, then the next day you don't feel the best, so then you have pre-workout again, and it's just a cycle where you're trying to play catch up. So
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's interesting, especially if you have like an aura ring or some sort of sleep tracker, you can sort of see these things and if they're really negatively affecting your sleep in any way.
yes, do you have an aura ring or a whoop strap or anything?
I have an aura ring. Yeah, I haven't got the Whoop yet, but it looks pretty interesting. But I'm quite happy with the aura.
Yep.
Probably don't use it to its full effect, but I've noticed some very interesting sort of relationships with
Yeah,
certain things and how it can impact your sleep. It's always good to have on you for sure.
it's a great tool to have. I have the whoop. I was looking at getting the aura ring, and I was kind of
Yeah.
comparing that with the whoop. The only reason I decided to go with the whoop is I had I'd looked into it, and the only negatives with the aura ring were the fact that it's a ring on your finger. It can get in the way when you're doing pull-ups, for example, or using a barbell.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that gets in the way?
Yeah. So I actually very rarely train with mine on just because what you said is correct. And just I feel like I can get really damaged and scratched,
Or
which
like
then makes
kettlebell
it hard because
swings?
if you're trying to, yeah, if you're trying to track your exercise or your training, it's probably not the best tool for that. I think where Aura really shines is specifically for that sleep tracking. Like
Yes.
otherwise for like training and whatnot, I think, yeah, you're probably better off with maybe like a Whoop band or a Fitbit or something like that.
So, I mean, the sleep part of the whoop is the main reason I got it, and it's my
Yeah.
like that's the best part about it. So, but yeah, I don't regret getting the whoop. It's awesome. I actually did an episode. I think it was last week it came out. So when this comes out, it would have been about a month ago. And I
Yeah.
broke down how the week works, and how I kind of things I did to improve my sleep score and my recovery score and all that. Really good tool for recovery, and I guess that comes under biohacking as well. So,
Yeah, man, it's definitely an interesting space with wearables. It's growing so quickly, and I think like just the data we're collecting and the sort of trends we'll be able to see is just going to be fascinating. And we're going to be able to connect all these different wearables we're wearing with like how is our nutrition, how is our supplementation affecting our physiology and our training. And oh man, it's an exciting time, I think.
yeah, I think a lot more people are taking their health into their own hands rather than relying on the medical professionals to, go to a doctor and have them explain to them what's wrong. I feel like a lot more people now are educating themselves and basically taking it into their own hands, which is good because a lot of people are, learning more about their own bodies. And because we are so different and complex, it's good to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
So going back to caffeine, there's a nootropic that I've been using. You might be familiar with it,
Yep.
but it's a stack. So it's a combination of caffeine and L-Theanine. Have you
Mm,
tried this combination?
absolutely have. I think L-Theanine is one of the coolest nootropics out there. And yeah, that combination of caffeine, theanine, specifically in like the 1-to-2 ratio, um, great studies on that in terms of improving cognitive performance and focus. Um, yeah, so the L-theanine is actually an amino acid found in green tea,
Yes.
and it seems to sort of remove the negative side effects associated with caffeine. So it makes it a bit smoother, reduces like the jitteriness and the sweats and the heart rate
Mm,
sort of things because yeah, it's a bit of a calming agent. It works primarily on GABA, so an inhibitory neurotransmitter, and it also has been shown to promote alpha brainwaves, which is sort of the frequency of brainwaves associated with like a calm meditative state. So L-theanine on its own, it's great as a sort of relaxing and calming agent, and then you pair it with that caffeine, and it's like just that smooth focus. And yeah, I think it's a great combination, and it's like one of the best starter stacks for sure.
yeah. I think it's like you just said, really good kind of starter stack for people to try because most people have tried green tea and most people have tried caffeine and they
Yeah,
just seem to work so well together. They kind of you get all the benefits of caffeine and then the benefits of the green tea, and they just work really well together. So I think the ratio you said, the 1-to-2 ratio, the you can get supplements of capsules that have that ratio, so it's really easy. And I think it's
yeah,
about the supplement that I've tried is I think 200 milligrams or milligrams, 200 milligrams of
milligrams.
caffeine
Yeah,
and 400 milligrams of L-theanine, which is the equivalent to, I could be wrong here, but I think it's 1 cup of coffee has about 200 milligrams of caffeine, and about 8 cups of green tea is the amount of L-theanine
yeah,
for that ratio. So, and I think if you look at like the side effects of that, there aren't really any side effects. Most people know the side effects of caffeine. Um, it has a slight laxative effect, but that's probably
yeah,
the worst thing. And I mean, it can mess up with your sleep if you take it too close to sleep, depending on how tolerant you are to caffeine, because everyone has a different tolerance level to caffeine. But the
yeah. That's right.
L-theanine kind of brings like when you combine them both, you get like the alertness and focus and energy from caffeine, but then the L-theanine, it stops the jittery effect of caffeine and it makes you feel calm and kind of focused.
Yeah,
And I think the half life isn't very long, so caffeine doesn't take long to wear off. So I think it's good to have that as a tool in your toolbox, in your supplement toolbox, I guess, um, as something that doesn't have a really long half life. Like if you just need a cognitive boost for a couple hours, you can just have this, and you know that it'll be out of your system within a few hours, rather than some other things like smart drugs, for example, that can take a lot longer to get out of your system and have some negative side effects.
Yeah, precisely right. Like that combo there is probably enough to get you in the zone to do whatever you need to do during the day and then still be able to sleep at night and actually get your
Mm.
proper rest. Rather than, yeah, if you're taking like one of these smart drugs, you're going to just be wide and then you're going to really struggle at night. But yeah,
And it's pretty cheap
I
too.
think yeah, it is. It is. You can buy like, I used to just have L-Theanine by itself from Nootropics Depot, which is like another nootropics supplier, and they supply a lot of individual ingredients. And yeah, man, just a few scoops of that in your coffee. But yeah, I
Mm.
think the 1-to-2 ratio is crucial. The 200 and 400 milligrams that you said, that's probably a bit much for me. I'd be happy with like
Yeah, okay.
100 milligrams caffeine and 200 L-theanine, but it doesn't really matter. It's just really what works for you at that point.
Mm. So it's interesting you mentioned before alpha brainwaves. I want to actually talk about
Mm.
something that I saw on your story or something you posted. Binaural beats. Can you explain what the concept behind binaural beats are and what it is?
Yeah, so I guess two popular things right now in terms of audio are binaural beats and isochronic tones. So binaural beats is probably more popular. What that is you're listening to music at two different frequencies, and your brain interprets the difference between those two frequencies. Say if you're playing 200 hertz or 210 hertz in the other ear, your brain takes the incoming signal as about 10 hertz and starts to actually oscillate at the same frequency as the incoming audio coming into you. So it's very, very fascinating. And then, so you can obviously change that depending on what kind of brainwave frequencies you'd like to promote. So alpha brainwave frequency seems to be the best for like a calm and meditative state of focus. And then obviously there's a bunch of other brainwaves which are associated with, whether you want to be more relaxed or get into deep sleep or be more alert, or more high energy and so that beta wave frequency. But yeah, there's some good research behind binaural beats. You can essentially modulate your brainwave frequency by listening to different frequencies of music, which is fascinating.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. I don't think there's because I've looked into a little bit and I've actually started trying it. I've added that into my nighttime routine because
Yep.
there's like you said, you can kind of sync your brain to the certain brainwave that you want, and you can
Yeah.
select whatever frequency you want. And one of the frequencies promotes like deep sleep. One of them promotes like REM sleep. So I've actually added in the deep sleep, which I think is gamma. I could be wrong, but
Probably theta or delta.
yeah, I think it might be
Yeah.
delta actually. And so
Yeah.
I've actually just tried that in my evening routine. I've been doing it for about a week now, and it's awesome. But I mean, that's all part of biohacking, just self experimenting and seeing what works and seeing what you get results from and what doesn't work. And I mean, having things like the aura ring and the Whoop, you can see what impacts your sleep. And so if something really improves your sleep, like a supplement or a routine like stretching or breath work, then you can see like, oh, I get really good deep sleep when I do this. And the days that I don't do it, or when I stopped doing that, you can see, oh, like my sleep decreased or things like that. So, and I think biohacking is just, yeah, I love it. Self experimenting and just learning about the body. It fascinates me.
Oh, mate, it is fascinating. And just on the train of thought of sort of brainwave entrainment, so the idea of, you're taking in these certain frequencies of sound or music, and your body and your brain starts to sync up with the same frequency of brainwaves. So something I've looked into and found really interesting is that doesn't just occur with binaural beats or audio. That can occur with any sort of waveform input you put into your brain. So that also includes electricity. It also includes light. So there's a lot of products coming out on the market now, which is like transcranial direct current stimulation. So where they literally put a current through your brain, through your frontal cortex, right?
Well,
Or you have a headset and it's shining light into your brain through your skull. And depending on the frequency of those inputs, the electricity or the light, your brain waves start to sync up and oscillate at the same frequency. So it's not just sound. It's essentially, it seems to be almost any input that has a wave pattern.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get a book recommendation off you. If you could recommend one book to anyone, what would it be? It could be on any
Ooh.
topic. I know you said you read most mornings on the way to work, so you probably read a fair bit.
Yep. Honestly, top one would probably be Elon Musk's biography or Einstein's biography, from the standpoint of just widening your perspective and sort of giving you that inspiration and helping you actually see what's possible if you're determined and you have a goal. They're sort of my general ones. For very specific ones, I would look into one I just read is The NeuroGeneration by Tan Le. So Tan Le is the founder and CEO of Emotive, an EEG company in the US. And she's actually Australian. So obviously, if you're into nootropics, she actually talks about nootropics in the starting chapters before going on to other brain technologies. So definitely recommend The NeuroGeneration. And one I'm reading right now by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler called The Future is Faster Than You Think. So if you're into technology, the future, how these exponential technologies are going to converge to create all these crazy new products and new industries, that's something I would read for sure, for sure.
Oh, I'll put the links for those books in the show notes. They sound really interesting. I've read the Elon Musk biography. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. And it's actually in my book club. That's what we're reading at the moment.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm yet to read it for the second time, but I will finish it shortly before the next meetup in the book club. But that's good. But I think the book came out, it's about 5 years old, that biography. And he's done a lot of interesting stuff since that biography came out. And I think one of the most played Joe Rogan episodes from last year was the Elon Musk podcast. Did you listen to that first one?
Yeah, I did. That was crazy. Yeah, it was cool to see he finally got him on.
Where he smoked a joint?
Yeah, he smoked a joint and like Tesla shares went down just a ridiculous amount,
Yes.
which is funny.
But I think that's funny because that shows his character. He doesn't really care. He just kind of does what he wants.
Yeah, he is a bit.
He probably knew that was going to happen, or I don't know if he knew that was going to happen. I mean, he's pretty smart. He would probably assume that would happen. But I mean, his logic was like it's legal, right? So he's not breaking the law or anything. So he was like, "Fuck it."
Yeah,
And
the sort of
yeah,
reaction from some of the people is a bit ridiculous. It's like it's legal and he's doing just nothing harmful to anyone at all and just relaxing a bit. It's like, come on now.
now he actually went on for a second time recently. I think within the last month. Have you listened to that second one?
Yeah, I did listen to that one as well.
Which was cool because he spoke more about the Neuralink, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah,
For the
so
listeners
yeah.
who don't know what the Neuralink is, it Neuralink? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Neuralink's the name of the company and the
Yeah.
product they're coming out, I think they're calling it the neural lace.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, this product that he's made it's like a microchip that people can get implanted into their skull.
Mm.
And basically, what it does, it repairs neurons. I mean, you might be able to explain it better than me, but from my understanding, it can repair neurons with I think that's what they're called, neurons that can
Neurons,
essentially,
yeah.
if someone has lost their vision or movement, this microchip can repair those neurons to bring back function in someone. So someone that's lost eyesight can actually see again, or someone who's a paraplegic can have function of all their limbs again. I mean, that is crazy stuff. Have I explained that correctly?
Yeah, you're definitely on the right path. So they want to build it initially to help people with sort of these disorders or in brain injuries and whatnot. Um, but yeah, essentially it's an implant with the chip, as you said, with I think like 1,000 or like 10,000 electrodes per chip. And essentially what they'll do is they'll get these wires and electrodes implanted into your brain, like right next to neurons. And he says they'll be able to read and write off neurons. So what that means is they'll be able to detect the electrical signals from surrounding neurons and also input electrical signals to stimulate these neurons. And I think that's how they're really going to help. So if people have loss of function or within certain regions of the brain, they'll be able to actually stimulate those regions artificially. And that'll be great for helping people with, who have these brain injuries and things of that nature.
You know what's going to come, you know what I think? Well, what's going to have to happen when this kind of technology starts to become more available for the average person? People are going to start to get these, I guess you could call them body upgrades or body modifications, when they don't necessarily need them. They just want to upgrade their body. And that is going to change the game, because you will then get different types of humans. You'll get upgraded humans, and then you'll get natural humans, which is going to then create a divide in like sports. I mean, it's going to create a bigger divide in the wealth gap. Like if only the wealthy humans can afford this, they're going to, like being wealthy is going to then allow you to upgrade your mind, your body, everything. And that's going to separate that gap even more, I think. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd say you're correct. Yeah, especially in the beginning when these technologies come out, definitely the people with more money are going to be able to afford it, just like any technology, any new technology. But I think very quickly, the cost is going to go down. And it's going to be democratized across the world in a fairly short matter of time. But then, yes, I think eventually everyone's going to have to make a choice whether or not they want to be normal, natural human or enhanced. And it's going to be interesting seeing that sort of difference. It'll sort of be like a choice whether to keep you and your individuality and stay natural, or sort of almost join the collective AI super intelligence. And upgrade yourself. And it's, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's inevitable. It is the future. It is what humans have always done. We create technology, we upgrade ourselves, and eventually we're just going to evolve past our current natural state into a new state.
Have you read Homo Deus by Noah Yuval Harari? He's the guy who wrote Sapiens.
I think I have. Yeah, it was a while ago though.
Yeah, that's a really good book on this kind of topic. If anyone is listening and is interested in this kind of stuff, really good read. What I want to ask you, if you could get the Neuralink or whatever it was called, the thing that Elon Musk has made, the microchip, if you could get that installed for, say, the same price as like a house deposit, would you choose to like buy a house using a house deposit, or would you choose to invest in the Neuralink and upgrade your brain?
Definitely the Neuralink.
I think I would as well.
If I'm being honest. Yeah, no, I see it as the future, a great piece of technology. Obviously, once it's gone through its trials and proven to be safe and effective, and it can actually be shown to enhance human function.
Yeah, I don't want to be the first one to get it.
Yeah, exactly. You never want to be the first one.
Yeah, no, it's exciting stuff. We've got to wrap things up shortly. So what I might finish on, due to you starting a business and coming out with a few products and making mistakes, what's one bit of advice you'd give someone who wants to start their own company, or someone who wants to get into the supplement industry, for example?
Oh, this is a question I ponder every single day of my life. The most important thing, if you're building a startup or a product, don't really just do it for the sake of it or because you think it's a good idea. Aim to solve a problem. So start with a very specific problem and then solve it. And solve it first by creating an MVP or a minimum viable product as soon as possible and give it to someone and see if it solves their problem. Because the way you're going to grow a business is because if you're solving people's problems, they're going to pay you for it. And that's how you know that you have a viable business that's going to scale. Particularly that, like if we're talking about the supplement industry in general now, like I never had a desire to, you can come out and still build like a successful sports supplement brand and come out with proteins and pre-workouts and whatnot, but it's been done. So look at different ways you can provide value. Where is there a gap in the market? Who isn't addressing a certain problem? So for me, no one seems to be addressing a problem of brain health and memory and focus and sleep and stress adequately. So that's what we're trying to do. And, it doesn't have to be completed using supplements. There can be other products and technologies. But yeah, find a problem that is worth solving and that you think is going to impact a lot of lives and that you're passionate about, and figure out what you can build to solve that problem. And I think, get the right people around you, find a mentor, look into accelerator programs where, they might give you a bit of money. They might give you some mentoring to help you start the company and figure out how to operate a business and go from there. There's so many resources available. There's Facebook groups, especially in Australia, startup groups. Reach out to people like me and I'll give you free advice and tell you everything we've done wrong. It all comes down to find a problem worth solving, solve for someone, and they'll pay you for it as long as you're providing a great product which meets their needs, and then you can scale from there.
Any good business books that have helped you?
Yes. So would recommend 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. It's probably my top one. The Lean Startup, that's sort of the classical startup book, which most people should read. They're the two main ones I would look into. And then other resources, just YouTube, particularly videos, Y Combinator videos, how to start a startup, great series of videos, and videos with Peter Thiel talking about, how to start a startup as well. And I reckon they're probably the best resources for you to get started.
Cool. All right. Now let's talk about Enhance. What nootropics are in it? What are the benefits of it, and where can people go to get their hands on some?
Yeah, so Enhance is our daily brain health nootropic, specifically formulated to help support memory, brain health, and learning. So we've got 9 ingredients in there. We've got Bacopa, lion's mane, CDP choline, sharp PS phosphatidylserine, actiolin, neurofactor, cell charge, which is fulvic minerals, and then just like a B vitamin complex. So there's a lot of details in each of those ingredients, but generally what we've done is we've made a stack which you can take almost every day. So we recommend 5 days on, 2 days off, and to sort of give you that long-term brain health support. You're not going to get a huge stim hit. Some people do feel like an effect, and that could just be to sort of your brain functioning a bit better or boosting like, your acetylcholine levels just that little bit. But more so, it's going to give you a nice increase in brain health and memory over a long period of time as you consume it. So it's the first of 3 products in our sort of range that we want to come out with this year. So this is sort of like our base, and then we go with our focus product and our sleep and stress product. So that's sort of our overall vision and a plan in terms of nootropics for this year.
Cool.
And you can find it online. Yeah, you can find it online primarily at our website, www.neuratech.com.au, or we're in a few retailers now in Australia. So Power Subs in Cleveland, Fitness, and also VitaCare, which is like an online retailer. And if you're in New Zealand, we recommend purchasing from him.
Yep.
But yeah, come online.
I'm in Newcastle, and a lot of my listeners are in Newcastle. Where's the closest distributor to Newcastle? Probably Sydney, or?
Yeah, we don't have any stores in Sydney, probably very shortly. At the moment, we actually haven't been pushing stores too much. We've been focusing really on like our online direct consumer channel.
Because of COVID.
So yeah, because of COVID, and it just makes sense. And we control the experience a bit better there, and we offer some great deals on our website for our online customers. It's like our subscription model. So I can go online, check us out, and then eventually we'll be in probably quite a few stores, hopefully across Australia.
All right. And are you active on social media? Where do you want to send people to find out more about you personally?
Yeah, I'm not that active on social media. I guess I am a bit on like Instagram these days. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or add me on Facebook, just at Filip Saric or Phil Saric on Instagram. Otherwise, check us out at Neuratech. We've got a YouTube channel, Neurotech, Facebook page, Instagram page. Come say hey, come chat nootropics. We're always here to help and chat.
Awesome. All right. I'll put all the links to everything we've spoken about in the show notes. And that's pretty much a wrap. So it's been awesome having you on. Thanks heaps for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me. It was a good chat, my man.
All right, guys. If you enjoyed this, please take a screenshot and share it. I'd love to see who's listening. And also, please subscribe and give a rating on iTunes. Sending positive vibes to everyone out there. Thanks heaps for listening.